Welcome back to my channel. This is the third video in a new series on how to design a PRS electric guitar in Fusion 360. If you've been following along, you know that this is a guitar that I will be building. So I'm going to cover the entire CAD and CAM process from start to finish. In this video, I'll create the heel of the neck and the transition from the heel back to the neck that we've already created. If you want to see more of these PRS design build videos, click on subscribe. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. And if you're interested in the Fusion files from this series, check out my Patreon site, which is listed below. So let's get started. I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach with this video. This is actually what I hope to accomplish in this video. This is the neck that we started with. I'll roll back the timeline to show you. So this is where we last left off. And I'm going to go through the timeline very quickly and kind of show you how the heel was made, the one crucial sketch involved, and the lofting involved, and some of the split bodies. And then we'll go into step-by-step on how it's done. So here's where we last left off. You know, we started from our first fret. If I turn the scale on, here's fret number 1, and we extruded this down to fret 12. Not extrude, we actually did an offset. I'm sorry, we did a loft between two neck profiles. So the next thing we're going to do is to create the heel of the guitar neck and then transition it. So in order to do that, the first thing I did, let me open up my neck, and I'm going to turn on our construction planes. So the first thing I did was I made a construction plane at fret 24. And the reason for that is I have a measurement from fret 24 to the end of the heel. And that's what this construction plane is. So there's a particular distance that I measured on my guitar. I think it was 1 13/16, but we'll get into that when I recreate all this stuff. So this second construction plane is going to be the end of the heel. So now you can see that what happened is we did an offset face of the neck to this construction plane, which I named heel end. Then the next thing that happens is there's actually a split of this neck that occurs at fret 17 and uses this fret 17 marker to do the split. Then that's where this neck block is extruded downwards. So there's still a tapered region here. This neck is getting wider as it goes towards its end. And this top surface of the neck was used to extrude this block down. But obviously this block has no transition to the neck. So that's the next thing that's going to happen here. That was a removal. Let me go back in the timeline a little bit. That was a removal of this portion of the neck. So removing one of the bodies. If I open up the bodies folder, you'll see that. At this point, there are 3 bodies, which that's the extrusion we just did. That's where the neck was split at fret 17, and that's the remainder of the neck. Okay, so we have these 3 bodies. This inner one, which is totally inside this block, is removed at this point. Then this is the most critical part of what we're doing here. There's a sketch. If I turn on this heel transition sketch, and I'm going to turn off the construction planes, and I'm actually going to turn off this block that was extruded to kind of show you what's going on. So this is the profile of the neck at F17 where the transition starts, and this is a profile of what that bottom of the heel looks like. And what I found out viewing, taking a look at my guitar, is that these transitions and curves kind of happen aligned to fret positions, which is very convenient. So we're going to do a transition from F17 to F19, and this curve goes from F19 to F20 here. And there's an arc used to define that. And so what we're going to do is a loft. I'll show you the loft here from this profile to the neck. But the crucial thing in this loft is there has to be a rail involved in it. And if I go back here, I'll show you. This rail is going to control how that loft happens. And this rail gives us the smooth transition between the two bodies. So this is crucial, and I'll show you how this is made. But basically, it goes from the center of this arc to the center of this neck profile. And another thing that's really important here is there's a little helper line that allows us to set a tangency on this spline so that it does a nice transition into the existing bottom of the neck. So once this loft is done, then we're going to use this surface of the loft right here to actually cut away at that solid block. So we're doing a split there. If I turn some of these other bodies on, we're using that lofted face to split, and then we can actually start removing some of the bodies. And you'll see, if I turn off the sketches, you'll see we have a nice transition here. And then it's simply a matter of putting these bodies together, these three individual bodies. So this is a combine that combines those bodies together. And then the last thing that we'll do in this video is to do some fillets or some rounded edges at the end of this heel. Okay. Okay, so I want to essentially rewind things back to where we left off in the end of the second video. So I'm going back in my timeline. I'm going to hide my scale, just make sure I'm at the right spot here. And I'm going to click and shift click and right click and delete all those features in our timeline. Okay, so next I'm going to activate the neck component because I'm going to be creating sketches and construction planes, and I want those to go inside this neck component. And I'll go ahead and turn my scale back on. And what I want to do here is I actually want to use the 24th fret in my scale sketch to create a construction plane parallel to the end of the neck. So I'm going to get plane at angle here, click on F-24, type in 90 degrees and press enter. Now I get a warning that says, you know, you've created something that's not visible. So let me turn on the construction folder, and now we can see our construction plane at F-24. Let me go ahead and click and do a second click to rename that. So I'll just call that F-24. Now on my guitar, what I did to get the neck length, I measured from fret 24 to the end of the heel, and I got 1 13/16. So that's why I did this construction plane. So I'm going to offset from that construction plane. It was selected when I clicked on offset plane. So now I'm just moving away from it in the direction that I know I want to go. And I'll type in 1 13/16. Actually negative 1 13/16. And so I'm going to name this plane heel end. Okay, so that's where we're going to offset this face to this position here. So let's go ahead and do that next. So I'm going to go up to offset face. I'm going to click on this neck profile here, and then just click on this construction plane, and that will offset it right to that position. So if we ever needed to, you know, change the length of, or the end of the heel, the length of the neck here, we could simply go into this feature, right click on it, do an edit, and change this distance of 1 13/16 to whatever you want it to be. Okay, so I'll cancel out of that. All right, so the next thing, we're done with these two construction planes, so I'm going to hide all of those. And what I want to do is actually split the neck at F17 and then use the remainder of the neck to extrude this heel block straight down. So let's do a split body, And the body to split is going to be our neck. And then the splitting tool is going to be F17. So I'm going to count from 24 backwards here. Let me zoom in a little bit. Be careful that I get the right fret. So here's 24. There's 20, 19, 18, 17. Okay, so that is our splitting tool. Let me just verify that I got the right one. 24, 3, 2, 1, 20, 19, 18, 17. Okay, great. Oop. All right, so we are about to split the neck at F17. Go ahead and do that. Now what that allows us to do is an extrude of this face. And remember, this is tapered here. If I look at this from the very top, because we did an offset face here, the neck continues to taper, which is what we want. So to get a solid neck block, I want to use that tapered surface and extrude it downwards. So I'm going to go up and click on extrude, hover over this surface, click on it, push this downward, and now I don't want to do a cut. I actually want to create a new body here. And the distance of the extrude I measured on my guitar is 35.5 millimeters. So I'm going in a negative direction, negative 35.5 millimeters, and clicking OK. So that creates another body. So at this point we have 3 bodies. Body 1 is actually inside this block. And then body 6 is our neck, and body 7 is the heel. So body 1 I'm actually going to remove because that's totally redundant at this point. So I'm going to right click on it and click remove. I don't do a delete because remove is parametric, and if we want to go back and make changes, we'll be in better shape to do that with a remove versus a delete. Okay, so we have our neck block, I'm sorry, our heel block, but has no transition to the neck. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a sketch, but first I want to point out something, that this block is tapered. It continues to get wider as it goes towards its end, which is exactly what we want here. That's why we use this front surface as the extrude. Okay, so now if we have our scale sketch on, here's our scale sketch right here. One of the things I observed is that the transition starts at 17, but at 19 to 20, there's an arc that defines the curve on the neck side of the heel. So we're going to go ahead and make that sketch. So I'm going to pre-select this bottom heel surface and create a sketch. First I'll make sure I'm in the neck as the active component. So I'll create my sketch. Okay, so now we can actually hide the bodies. So I'll hide both bodies, and let's make sure, well, you know what, I'm going to turn one of them back on. Let's turn the heel portion back on. Okay, so we know that this is fret 17, 18, 19, and 20. We want 19 and 20 accessible in our sketch. So I'm going to do a project, and 17, 18, 19. I'm going to click on 19 and click on 20, and they are now in our sketch. Okay, so what I want to do is create this arc. So I'll go up to arc, 3-point arc. I'll try to start here, but I can see I'm not snapping to the edge. So I'm going to escape out of that and do another projection. So P for project. I'm going to get this edge of the block and this edge of the block and do an OK on my projection. So now I can turn the body off, I think, successfully, and go up to my arc, 3-point arc. I can intersect here, so I click there, and then I'm clicking right in the middle here. So this is a profile that we're going to end up selecting when we loft from here to the neck. So that's the start of our sketch. Let's turn our bodies back on and see what else we need to do. So I'm going to switch bodies here. This is where we're going to loft to, this profile right here. But let me show you what would happen if we just loft it. So we're gonna finish this sketch and then come back to it and add some stuff. But I want to, first of all, let's show the sketch. There it is. Second of all, let's rename it. So this is going to be our, I'm just going to call this heel trans for heel transition. Okay, so technically we can do a loft right now. So let's do it and see what happens. So I'm going to click on this profile and this profile right here. And you can see we do have a transition here, but it's just straight. And we want this to be a curved loft. So basically we need to create a rail in order to pull this loft off. So I escaped out of the loft. And the rail is simply going to be a spline that's going to start in the center here and end up in the center there. And the way we're going to do that is to go back into the heel transition sketch. So I'll right click and do an edit sketch. And now I want to make sure that 3D sketch is checked here in the sketch palette. That will allow us to do sketching off of this plane. So I want the center of this bottom of the neck. Let me go ahead and toggle the scale off so that's not in our way. And if I tried to do a spline and snap there, I'm not able to. If I hold down my control key, I'm still not able to snap there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a line, and I can snap right here in the midpoint. So I'm going to go over to construction, turn that on. I got my center point, and now I'm going straight down. And you can see I'm in a 3D sketch, so it looks a little bit different, but I do want to verify that I'm at a 90-degree angle here and that I am snapped to this point in the neck. So that's just a little guideline. And now if we go back to our spline, I'm able to snap there. So that's good. Now, am I also able to snap there? Yes, I am. So I think I'm all set to go ahead and create that spline. So if I do that, I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click here, and then just do a check. There's my spline. Now I had construction geometry on, so let me go back and hit escape and click on this line, and I'll hit X to toggle back to real geometry. But you can see our spline is not curved, it's just a straight line here. I want this spline to be tangent with the bottom of this neck. And the only way I know of doing that is to make a little helper line. So we're going to create another line. We're going to make sure we snap to the point, the intersection of this construction line and the spline that we just drew. So I'm snapping there. And now I want to make sure that I'm going at a perpendicular to that along the neck. And since we're in 3D sketch, I can use that to our benefit. I don't care about the length, but I do care about this angle here. So I'm going to make sure that that's at 0 degrees. So that should be right at the bottom of the curve of that neck. And it looks like it is. So now we can put a tangent constraint on the spline and the construction line that we just made. And now you can see that this curve nicely transitions from its start here at this heel arc profile, and then it transitions nicely up to our neck profile. So I think that's all we really need. So I'm going to finish the sketch, and now we're going to do the loft again. So I'm going to go up to the loft tool, click on this profile on the end of the neck, click on this second profile in our heel. We get our straight transition, which we don't want. But this time we can add a rail in this section and click on the spline. And now we get a very nice transition. So I'm actually going to make this a new body and do an OK. And now when that finishes, you can see we have 3 bodies. We have this solid heel block, we have the neck, and we have the transition that we just did. So now we want to use this face of the transition that we just created to split this block into 2 bodies, and then we can get rid of the excess. So I'm going to go up to split body. I'm going to pick the block as the body we want to split, and I'm going to pick as a splitting tool that face that we just created on the transition. And now we get a graphic with this extend splitting tool on, and I'm going to do an OK here. And now when we look into our bodies, we see we have 4 bodies. So let's see which one we can get rid of here. That's the one right here. If I toggle that on and off, that's the chunk that we just separated from the rest of the neck block. So body, I'm sorry, what was it? Body 7. So I'm going to right click on that, and I'm going to do a remove. So now we just have 3 bodies. So now it's just a matter of joining these 3 bodies together. So I'm going to click on one of them and do a combine. So that one's pre-selected. I'll go down to our tool bodies, and I'll pick body 3 and body 6 here. We don't want to keep our tools, so it's going to combine these 3. It's not going to keep the other ones. And the operation is join. So after I do an OK, I have a single body. So we're nearly finished here. The only other thing we want to do is to add some fillets or roundovers to this portion of the neck. So I'm going to go up to fillet. I'm going to pick this edge and this edge, and then push it in, and let's see what a 1/4 inch looks like. That looks pretty good. So I like that. So there is our heel with our very nice transition, and that's it for this video.